So hi, my name is Chris Parsons. I am a CTO and an AI consultant helping teams leverage AI. So I think the biggest misconception that CTOs and engineering leaders have about implementing AI is that they can just buy some tools and then give them to their engineers and expect the engineers to be able to use them straight away. It is possible to learn those tools yourselves, but it requires time and it requires space for experimentation, and it requires a real mindset shift in how you approach development and coding with AI tools. It's not just the same as learning a new IDE or learning a new software package. It's a fundamentally different way of working. Without that kind of space and the environment and maybe some training, it's very difficult for people to just jump to using AI straight away. The challenges that you have are that it's non-deterministic, which means that it will do something slightly different every time. I think one of the biggest things that teams get wrong is that they don't realize that, and then they assume that if it just kind of works for them and they've tried it and it seems to be okay, then it'll work fine in production. That's not necessarily the case, because people might have very different experiences of using the product when they're throwing their own data at it. So the first thing to do is to log everything, record everything that the AI does, make sure that every step of the process is captured, somewhere that you can analyze. The second step is to take those recordings and do manual evaluations of them. So make sure that you are going through them step by step and figuring out, is this a good response for the AI or not? Odds are on that the response won't be that good to start with. It'll be okay, perhaps quite bad, and surprisingly bad for you in some cases. So the next step then is to start building and obviously improving your prompts, and then go through the same systematic scientific process to see what percentage of responses are good, and hopefully you want that to be going up. But in just the same way that you would measure engineering optimization and efficiency, you want to measure the effectiveness of your LLM, maybe as a percentage of positive chat experiences, for example, or reducing the number of negative experiences where the AI didn't do what you wanted. After you've done that, you can get into more advanced things, like if that gets boring and manually evaluating is difficult, doesn't scale, then you can start using or training an LLM to actually do that evaluation for you, and then you can start doing automatic improvement of prompts and things like that. So there are some more advanced techniques, but the first step is to start logging everything and then making sure that you're measuring and responding to the kinds of things that are happening in the real world. When I was at Gower Street, we scaled that team from just a handful of people to over 50 people. I think that the biggest challenge was trying to ensure that we got the structure right, and then it followed the dynamics of the team. So early on, I spent a lot of time thinking about team process and team organization and figuring out what the most efficient process was with that team. And then I realized after a while that it was really all about the people in the team, and that you can't come up with the most efficient and the best process without considering all of the people dynamics. If your engineering manager and your product manager aren't speaking to each other, instituting weekly meetings to make sure they're communicating does not work. So you have to deal with dynamic issues, and then you can maybe introduce a structure or work with the team to figure out the structure that works for the team. And then that's a continual process, because as the team grows, that changes every 2-3 months, certainly every new hire. So you have to continually kind of reinvent and move on from what used to work but is no longer working. Meta prompting is a really powerful technique for CTOs to use and apply. The challenge is that most prompts are just kind of a starting point, and we need to really work at them to improve, and that takes quite a lot of effort. So what's great and really powerful about using modern AI is that it's able to write the prompts for you. So an AI is a lot better at writing prompts than we are, which means that we are able to leverage it in order to get what we mean. And the best way of doing that is to get AI to ask you questions about the problem that you're trying to solve. So instead of saying, I want to sort out this particular performance issue in my team, or I want to come up with a development career ladder, progression ladder for my team, and then try and think of everything you can think of that might be interesting for the AI to know when doing that. That's quite a difficult process. But instead you say, I want to come up with a new progression ladder, ask me one question at a time so that I can give you the information you need in order to create one. If you do that, then what ends up happening is that the AI pulls information out of you and all of the knowledge and context that you have, and it will do a much better job. The other thing that I would say is that you can continually improve those prompts. So if you find yourself doing the same things over and over again, asking the AI to tell you what it wished it knew at the start of your conversation will allow you to progressively, say, improve that prompt maybe 1% every time you do it, and that compounds over time such that it becomes massively better at following instructions and doing what you wanted to do. Okay, so the teams that are doing really well with AI are the ones that are baking it into the core of their self-improvement processes. I think the most important thing that you can do is to be continually learning and building a mindset of continual learning about the tools. The tools are moving extremely fast, and we need to find ways of building the learning and the process of really figuring out how to apply these tools into our work. At the moment, there isn't really a playbook, despite what some people will tell you. There's no playbook for understanding exactly how to apply AI to a business. We're all still learning about what AI can do for us and how we can apply it. So the most important thing to be effective is to build a setup in your organization that is learning, that is growing, and that is rethinking how we do things fundamentally with these new tools. And if you do that systematically and repeatedly over time and build those processes in, then you'll get to a much better place. How will AI change over the next year or two? That's very difficult to say, especially if you're looking at a sort of 2-3 year horizon. Nobody really knows. I think we are definitely progressing to a point where AI is becoming more independent. At the moment, we're starting with it as a tool that helps answer a few questions. Now we're using it as a coach to interview us, but in future, we're going to be using it much more autonomously. We're going to be giving it tasks to do, and it's going to be running for some time without us being involved. So I think it'll move much more towards being a collaborator rather than just a tool. It'll feel much more like working with somebody else, but it won't quite feel like a colleague. It'll feel like something different. And I think the way that we interact with AI will change. I'm not quite sure how it will change. And I think that the tools that we use to collaborate with humans at this point will necessarily need to change and adapt to be able to incorporate this new kind of collaboration mindset, especially if you're looking at team-based tools like Slack or Teams. Bringing agents to that is going to require whole new thinking and whole new ways of doing a collaboration and discussion. It's going to be fascinating.